Now we are going to move to the third one, uniqueness. Now we are going to see the unique feature of Gurukulam. If at all you say Gurukulam, then if these things are there, then it is Gurukulam. What are those things? Without which a Gurukulam cannot exist. That kind of a structure. That is what we are going to discuss now. Though whatever I said till now is all very, very important, but I am going one step, to scrutinize the concept of Gurukulam. The first thing is Brahma Muhurta. We have already discussed this, getting up early in the morning. The second thing is, whoever is the Acharya of the Gurukulam, he should walk his or her talks. Why is this? Because the very word Acharya means Acharati iti Acharya, the person, one who is living his talk. Therefore, Acharya is somebody who is practicing what he or she tells. Therefore, this is the primary quality for a Gurukulam. To be frank, this should be one and Brahma Muhurta can be two. The third thing is, in ancient India, three things are not sold. The first thing is education. So education should not become a business. No money can be transacted before even teaching. It's a very ugly thing. Guru Dakshana concept is there, but Guru Dakshana concept is not a demand from Acharya, but out of love from the student's sake. Now you may ask a question, how could then Dronacharya ask the thumb finger? Regarding Dronacharya, we will discuss later. But understand, Guru Dakshana is something, it's not a demand, but it is out of love. It is a unclearable depth. That much of depth a person will have towards his or her Acharya, and that depth should be addressed at least. That is why it is called Guru Dakshana, and that is many a times, or 99% of the time, it is from the student side. The first one is education, which could not be sold. The second one is medicine, Aushadhi or Vaidya, that should not be sold. And the third one is food. Even in the Gurukulam, the food will be completely for free, medicine will be free, and education will be free. Even the very Gurukul where I studied, the images you saw, even there, 6 years I studied there. They took care of me like my own parents. Not even a single rupee they asked from me at any cost. Dronacharya. Now, Dronacharya is a unique person. I am not going to justify what Dronacharya did, because Dronacharya didn't do dharma. Definitely, they all are great souls, and I have no right to speak about their charityam, but I am taking it for the sake of the Gurukulam concept and the Guru Parampara. Let me share you my thoughts and what I learnt from many of my teachers. Dronacharya is the first person who broke the rule of Gurukula Parampara. He started Gurukulam not for the people at large, but he demonstrated a skill. He pitched in front of the king's children, and he motivated the children to ask the kingdom to come and fetch him and make a Gurukulam because of his family situation, wife's jealousy, son's situation, blah blah, anything it could be. But what he did is wrong. As a guru, as a Gurukulam, the student should come to the teacher, not a teacher should go and ask a student to come and learn. The second dimension is he agreed to the conditions which was asked by Dhritarashtra, which is only my children should learn. Along with my children, no outsider should learn. And Dronacharya agreed to it, which means what he had is not a Gurukulam. Because Gurukulam's unique feature we will discuss in the future, everybody should be learning in an equal way. There should not be any partiality, there should not be any biased. And Dronacharya's hidden agenda was to make anybody out of here to wage war against his Shatru. Therefore, there are many agendas which doesn't fall align with the Guru Parampara, with the Dronacharya. Dronacharya waged war. He stood in the war and fought. A Kshatriya only can do, and an Acharya cannot do this. And Parashurama is not a Brahmana. He is a converted Kshatriya for the cause. But whereas Dronacharya, he claims to be a Gurukul Acharya, but he did something the other side. And Dronacharya also fought in the midnight against Dharma to safeguard his son and many other things. So there are many flaws. Therefore, Dronacharya cannot be considered as a Guru Parampara or Gurukulam representative. He is against the Gurukulam representation, and Kali Yuga can be a reason, and many other can be a reason. This is the fourth inevitable quality of a Gurukulam, that is, education is for all. Everybody should be equally addressed in a Gurukulam. The best example is Satyakama Jabali, who is a prostitute's son, who is a cowherd boy, who was pulled by the knowledge, and he went and touched the feet of his guru and asked, can I join the Gurukul? You all know the story. He asked, what is your father's name? He went back and asked mother. Mother told, I don't know, I served many people, I don't know who's your father. I am Jabala, so you can just say you are my son, as Jabali is your name, because I don't know who's your father. And the boy was so truthful. He came in front of everybody in the Gurukulam and told his teacher that my mother don't know my father. My mother's name is Jabala, therefore my name is Jabali. Now will you accept me? And the guru was very, very happy by his truthfulness and accepted him. And later he became Kulapati of so many Gurukulams, and in a very less time he completed very big story. A beautiful, amazing rishi he became in the future. This is in the part of as a part of Vedas, we see the story. Gurukulam is not under any government for that matter. This is a very, very unique dimension. Why? Because if Gurukulam is under the government's design, then the king's head will influence Gurukulam's design. The king's likes and dislikes will be injected in the Gurukulam. The king's agendas will be taught to the children of the Gurukul. There are many such unwanted things will happen. That is why they made Gurukulam far away from the government, not only from the society but also from the government. And they never got any money from the king or from the government. They always depended on the society, and society took care of the Gurukulam. Many a times, this is the reason why the kings and the the Chhatrapatis or the Chakravartis are also afraid of the Gurukulam, because it's a separate entity which are creating kings. There was one king who was called Vena, who was son of Prithu, who was a very bad king, who was literally outruling all the dharma, and he was literally a bad role model. And at that moment, nobody was there to control him. He was doing too much disturbance to the society. At that time, all the Gurukul Acharyas, all the Gurukul students, all the Gurukul Pradhan Acharyas or Kulapatis, everybody came together and finished him and created a new life to the society. So we see such many stories in history where such takeover of the even government happens from the Gurukul. Even Chanakya, Acharya Chanakya did exactly the same. You know Vishwamitra story also, right? Vishwamitra was a king before, and he was planning to abduct a cow from Gurukulam, and Vasishtha Maharshi literally showed him his real color and the greatness of the Gurukulam. And when the entire army of Vishwamitra was one side, Vasishtha Maharshi was alone this side, and he just took one grass and he did a prokshanam to the grass, and he told, Dik balam, Kshatra balam, Brahma tejo balam balam. May all your physical strength be down in front of the Brahma bala. Brahma means not the Brahmin or the caste, but Brahma is the divine strength of a Gurukul Acharya. And that Brahma bala he told, and then he threw the grass in front, and from the grass came so many thousands of warriors, and the entire army of Vishwamitra was defeated. So that is when he realized the Gurukulam is more powerful than king. Therefore, I should not be a king. If I want to be more powerful, then I should become a rishi. And he tried to become a Brahmarishi. He couldn't. He became Rajarishi, and then he became Brahmarishi. That's a beautiful story of explaining the power of Gurukulam over the government. The last thing is questioning nature. If it is a Gurukulam, if a Guru Parampara is followed, then questioning the master, questioning the teacher, questioning the subject is inevitable. This is the primary teaching methodology of ancient India, where they never accept a statement because it is told by XYZ person or reason. They ask question on everything, or even on the very fundamental. There is a very great Upanishad called the Kena Upanishad. The very name Kena means by whom, because the very Upanishad starts by question. Full Upanishad is question answer, question answer, question answer. Students will ask question and Acharya will answer. Shvetaketu and Aruni, question answer, question answer. Every prakarana you take, Kathopanishad, Nachiketa and Yama, question answer, question answer. Everywhere you see, it's a typical question and answer way of learning. They used to question rishis, they used to question kings, they used to question gods. Everybody they question. And because of this questioning nature, the liveliness of the knowledge is still preserved in ancient India, from ancient India to till date. So this is about pedagogy.